When it comes to a hazmat response, speed and accuracy are everything.
Right? Speed and power, baby.
Well, hold your horses. Speed and power, that's a Clarkson Farm thing, but speed and accuracy, that's a 908 thing.
Yeah, you know them as the little black box, and now they have the little red box too.
Exactly. And there is a specific reason why the world's hazmat teams are starting to trust 908 devices. You have your handheld MX908 and the Explorer IR. They are changing the game.
And remember that 908, that is one of the few devices out there that can actually identify the Novichoks.
You got it. Not only can it identify Novichok, but it can identify all sorts of chemical warfare agents, as well as pharmaceutical-based agents, drugs, and explosives. And here's the key. It does it all at trace levels.
Right. That I know the Explorer can identify and quantify over 5,000 gases and vapors in seconds. And that's going to change the game.
Yeah, that's why teams all around the world are trusting 908 devices. You guys can check them out at 908devices.com and upgrade your meter toolbox. Hey, Bobby.
Hello. We're back. Another one.
We are back. Another week, another day, another dollar.
Yeah, exactly. You guys got to check out the new podcasts that are dropping out. The Industrial Strength Hazmat Conference, Industrial Strength Hazmat Podcast. It's designed for industrial fire, hazmat people. Fire.
Which, I got to be honest with you, if you're saying to yourself, well, I just do first response, it's really nice to get to understand how the other half lives and works and the vernacular that they use and what they mean, because it is a really good possibility you might be running in with these guys. So Start the conversation, start the ball rolling. It's a good place to be. Speaking of good places to be, tonight is our happy hour for January. It is for our premium members. So if you're listening to this, it's too late. You should have already become a premium member. You missed out on this month's happy hour. Happy hour is a great opportunity to just get together with like-minded people, small group, and shoot the shit, bullshit. It's not recorded. Nothing ever leaves it. So if you're complaining about your department or you're complaining about a policy, you want to know how to get around X, Y, and Z, it's the place to go and do it.
Yep. Check out the store, THMG and HMAF. The kids love that one. Make sure you pick up your Pocket of Nerd 2 because they are selling faster than they can print them. And let us know if you want to be included in our grant list, because I just heard that there's a new grant that just popped open, and we are going to be pumping that thing as fast as we can pump money out and into your pockets. So let us know. Send us an email at info@thehazmatguys.com if you want to be put into that. And I also think there's a sign-up link on the website, but I don't know if that's up.
I believe there is. And we are about a month away from kicking off conference season. And, you know, we hit the ground running hard. Bob is at as many conferences as he can possibly physically get to. I think this year there's almost 18 up on the board. We're going to be trying to figure out maybe how to pare them down. But until then, we know that we're going to be at the EMS Expo, the Virginia Expo. That's going to be March 2nd and the 3rd. Wisconsin WAMR, 5th and 6th. Oklahoma Hazmat, also March 5th and 8th. So those are going to be kind of intertwined. And there might be some cool stuff happening with that one. You definitely want to attend. If you've been thinking about attending, go check it out. You're going to knock your pins over.
That was good. Okay. What are we talking about today?
All right. So, as you know, a lot of the content for this show comes from our real life experience, right? Things that we need to explain, talk about, go through. We turn around, we talk about it, and we go, you know what? That might be worth putting on the show. Let's kind of chat about this. So this stems from a recent conversation and then a recent training, and the two kind of paired together. And we went, well, let's talk about all the advantages. We were having a conversation with the team leader about training, which we do very often, and the topic of radiation came up. He kind of rolled his eyes a bit and was like, well, they covered radiation in the original tech class. What more is there? And we were like, are you kidding me? There's so much more than just turning on a meter and reading it over the air or walking around. So having just finished up a really great day of radiation training, we jotted down some notes and we brought it into a podcast to really kind of go through some of the hands-on stuff that we did and how that training, how that hands-on training can affect the first responder and the public and the overall incident in general. Like basically the why should I give a crap?
I like that. So we'll start off with this one. And all right, let me get it out of the way because this is one of those things like a bunghole. Everybody gets it. You know, there is something called frisking. And I know the cops out there just got hard nipples, but this is alpha and beta frisking, right?
We don't racial profile when it comes to radiation, alpha and
we're equal opportunity. So
we treat alpha and beta the same.
But frisking is one of these skills for first responders that it's like the fundamentals, right? And so it involves using radiation detection instruments to assess individuals for contamination, right? We call it frisking, and we take like the wand and we kind of go up and down their arms. If you've gone to the airport and they're looking for metal on you, it's kind of like, it's just like that. So it's a big deal. It's an activity that we do, but it helps responders identify contamination quickly, reducing the risk of spreading that to other materials.
Yeah, and the hands-on
other people's
materials, anywhere radiation is going to go, or the sources are going to end up. So we do a hands-on practice with detection equipment, and this does a couple things. One, it enhances the familiarity with the equipment, right? I'm not going to compare it to decon, but you know how in decon, Bob, you know, they tap somebody's head with the brush and then they tap their foot and they're like, he's deconned, right? The frisking can be the same way if you don't have the right equipment to simulate what it is actually like to frisk. So using the good equipment, using the stuff that is required to make it as realistic as possible without irradiating everybody in the class, we can ensure that responders can operate these devices efficiently under pressure. They've done it the way it should be. We can correct them when they're not. And honestly, if they don't do a good enough job, they don't find the source of contamination, and then they're there forever and everybody wants to go home. So actually doing it hands-on, it gives them that experience to then be able to bring out into the field, because research, honestly, it shows that the more you can actually do something, the more that skill impacts the brain, the more retention you have, the more knowledge you have. It just all comes together and makes sense.
Right. Now, frisking for alpha and beta, the reason why is because they are the mass part of the radioactive release and not the energy part. You're not going to pick up on gamma and neutrons from that kind of stuff unless they have like sources on them. But while this is primarily a skill for radiation safety professionals, first responders, there can be a benefit for general public in several ways. Like first off, I remember where we used to work, we used to have community reception, right? If there was an event, they would just pop up like a radiation portal thing. And we had the luxury of having, 11 billion guys working. So it was easy for us to staff it. But what if you have 10 people and you need to put some civilians like the CSC is the military. What is the civilian?
Well, you would have the Department of Health.
Oh, CERT people.
Right.
And they can come in and they can do this frisking and help identify radioactive contamination and kind of sort them like a triage kind of thing.
And don't sit there and go, well, we're never going to see radiation because, we're not a target of high priority terrorism. You can see radiation in so many different places. There's industrial accidents, right? We have places at work, troxel gauges with doors left open and radioactive sources falling out of stuff. Like these things actually happen on a fairly regular basis. Transportation incidents involving radioactive materials. I mean, if you just think of the amount of radiation that is transported in the medical world, right? They make the radiation somewhere and then they got to transport it to some cardiologist office so they can inject it. That would all be considered transportation. And then, yes, you have, of course, the act of terrorism that is potential anywhere. So we want to be able to reduce the exposure risk, right? That's the end game for a lot of this. So by identifying the contamination early, Frisking helps us minimize that risk of radiation exposure and contaminations to individuals and ultimately communities. This can prevent long-term health effects associated with radiation exposure. So understanding these skills goes a long, long way towards protecting the public, which is what we kind of swore to do.
Right. So, think about it. If you have somebody that doesn't come to your radiation portal or get decontaminated, what are they going to do? Probably is they're going to go home and take a shower, right? And so when we are frisking them properly and quickly, because you can process a bunch of people through, if they wash that dust into the drain, it goes into the water source, right? And that would be a problem for food supplies and water flows and ecosystems and et cetera, et cetera. So there is a multi-layered type thinking you have to have on this one.
From a public health aspect, we want to make sure that we identify contamination, because if we have a patient that's, say, headed to a medical facility, we want to make sure that that patient isn't going to be bringing contaminated particulates into the hospital, right? This is the key source where everybody's going to go to get better. If we shut down that hospital, that has major public health ramifications. So, we look to protect both the patient and the hospital staff from unnecessary radioactive exposure.
Right. Most hospitals do have that whole, they switch off the regular door and they become like a lockdown type maze that you got to go through. But that's on purpose.
The first receiver program, like they kick that a nurse has probably done once in her whole life, and now is going to be expected to do all these things. Don't think a hospital is going to be able to handle a contaminated patient. The reality is they're just not set up for it, no matter how much training they say they have.
Right, but going into this hospital thing is like we are going to triage, which they are experts at triaging people, who's critical, who's not, but doing it on a radiation basis so that we can keep the hospital open. We can kind of push over the people that are high risk, et cetera. So like decon and that kind of stuff, you get it in a timely fashion.
And if we can reduce the contamination by identifying it, right, we can also help reduce the cleanup costs and the time associated with that cleanup. Early detection through frisking can significantly reduce the scope of the incident as well as the cost of the decontamination efforts. Imagine having to go and search every square inch of your neighborhood, and I'm not even joking, inch by inch, a few centimeters away from the ground. If you could identify it early, you would save taxpayers thousands, although if you're doing it on overtime, that's a totally different.
Yeah, then take your time. Thoroughness is key. But it's also good for us, right? We use this to, it's funny. It says here in our notes here that you can check yourselves. And that's a thing that people don't think about, is like, I am the frisker, I have to check everybody else. It's like, you can check yourself too. Like you can just wave that puppy up and down your arms.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah, like you just use a tool that is contaminated. Oh man, it's on my hands. Okay, now when I go through the decon process or anything else, I can't use this hand.
Hey Mike, take a look around and tell me, how many lithium-ion battery devices do you have around you right now?
I'm gonna say 5 to 6 just sitting here at my desk.
You slacker! It's terrible.
Why? How many do you
batteries? I have millions right here. Batteries are everywhere, and almost every department in the nation is starting to deal with these things on a regular basis.
We are excited to tell you about a new product that has proven to limit and control battery fire propagation. It's from a brand called DGO. I want to make sure I'm pronouncing that right, and is chock full of hazmat experts who know that there's a better way for us, the first responders, to handle, store, and ship these batteries at a low risk.
And this product will also solve your lithium battery ion problems because it's lightweight, it works across all battery types, and we can say that it lives up to the hype because we've tested it firsthand.
We have, and it's called ObexionFR, and it's part of a 2-part system with a scientifically designed granular along with a UN-certified pail or drum. And most importantly, ObexionFR is proven to reduce the toxic IDLH gases emitted when the battery kicks off. So it's going to help keep your team safe.
Right. So to learn more, go to ObexionFR.com. That's OBEXIONFR.com. Now, you know what I hate?
Pimples on your body that are in such a spot that you can't get a good position to squeeze them.
So I hate that. I hate my face burning off a little more.
Why the heck is your face burning off? What the hell are you doing?
From radiation, or actually not knowing about radiation being present.
Oh, good point. Luckily, we've been playing with new meters from Mirion. They are top shelf devices.
Yeah, I'm going to bet a bunch of you out there don't know who Mirion is. And to be honest, neither did we until we started talking to them. And now, wow, there is more than meets the eye with these guys.
Yeah, they're a multi-billion-dollar company. And to be honest with you, I had absolutely no idea how much reach they had in the medical, nuclear, and safety defense sectors.
Yeah. So for first responders, they got some really cool tech like the AccuRad, the Spear Ace, and the Spear View that helps detect and monitor radiation quickly and accurately so we can make smart decisions on the fly.
We've checked them out. We love them. We've actually incorporated them as part of our training now. So we have their meters that we train for radiation. You should check them out at Mirion.com. That's Mirion.com.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, it's important because alpha and beta radiation can be harmful if inhaled, ingested, or comes in contact with the skin to a little bit limited point.
I always want to frisk the equipment, and I don't think this is something we talk about a lot. You know, we talk about tool drops at the front of the decon line. That way another team can come in and grab it. But do we actually test the equipment that we're using before we go pick it up and use it? I'm not saying it's going to change your operation, right? You may be in a position where that's the only meter I have and it's contaminated and it is what it is. But you know what? If I've got 10 pieces of equipment to choose from and one is contaminated and 9 are not, maybe I'm going to save myself some trouble and grab an uncontaminated piece of equipment.
It also allows us to kind of like, I don't want to say it the wrong way, but like establish like zones, like, you know, what areas are more contaminated at a scene so we can kind of, because it's not like in the movies where there's going to be like glowing orange things. It's like, it just looks like a piece of rock there. And so if we don't like kind of like, oh, that rock is no good, that's a bad rock. And we put a cone there and say, you know, like by frisking for alpha and beta, what they call ground shine is the stuff that's kind of like the dust that's on the ground. You're not going to know where to walk and not walk.
And that's one of the first things we want to do is to establish a cold zone command post where we know that the cold zone incident commanders are safe. We want to be able to triage effectively, right? We want to know what is the primary task, what's going to be the focus of the mission, victims, who's going to be decontaminated first, who's more severe, just same as we would for medical. We just want to have an efficient triage.
Right. And this keeps it from spreading. You know, knowing where those boundaries are and all that stuff. So vehicles, cars, the buses, the trains, everything, it keeps going on and on.
How about when we come out of the decon process? We want to make sure that we're not bringing it home to somebody. You know, we know we're going to be contaminated. And if you're doing like a dry decon, even if you're doing a wet decon, you know, I want to make sure I didn't touch something on the outside by accident. So doing it in decon is a perfect place to plug in frisking.
Yeah. So, you know, not to beat it to a horse, not to beat the horse, but like, you know, using frisking is a different tool. I guarantee if you bought the kit, you got the tube and you got like a paddle.
Right.
That's what we're talking about here. It's the paddle.
The paddle. The round, but we call it a pancake probe. It looks like a tiny little dollar pancake.
Or the square one, right? And again, those things, if you're not understanding what the hell they're for, there is a reason for using these things. So that's like kind of equipment mastery.
Right. And what's nice, right, that the training that we did, we were actually able to simulate an alpha source. So you're mastering the frisking skills. You're understanding how close you have to be. You're understanding how far apart your different paths are back and forth and back and forth. And if you don't do that in training at least once, you are never going to identify alpha and beta contamination in real life when it happens. I don't care what anybody says.
I like it. Frisking. Good stuff. Get in there. Another one, site surveys. Very infrequently done or infrequently done well.
Yeah.
especially in the management point.
It's almost like a Magellan type thing. Like you got to be like a map master to really do it properly.
Right. So what we're talking about here is, when you're doing a site survey, we're talking about assessing the extent of the contamination, which is like nailing Jello to a tree. It's very hard. It's, because the wind is moving things and people are involved in this thing. So this is a hands-on activity. It allows us to evaluate the environment systematically. And we are gridding out hotspots. And we use this skill by practicing with our survey meters and other detection equipment in a realistic scenario. It's not just like, guys, go on this, out in the sandbox and just walk around a little bit. That's not what we're talking about here.
If you're a chief and you're listening to this, you absolutely understand the value of a site survey. If you're just a fireman, you may be rolling your eyes right now, being like, what's the big deal? But incident assessment and characterization, they have dramatic impact on the way the rest of the incident is going to unfold from start to finish. And if you don't believe me, here's a couple of different ways that a site survey can impact the incident, right? We're locating the radioactive sources, and the site survey helps responders identify and pinpoint exact locations, right? So how could that benefit me? Well, I may later on need to operate in that environment. Isn't it nice to know to have a planned out path, which I'm going to walk or which I'm going to move, or places I know that I shouldn't go? I'm determining the extent of contamination, right? I'm seeing areas that I know I'm going to be, that if I'm going to go there, there's going to be issues later on. So I'm going to try to avoid them as best as possible, where it's on what surface, what personnel are already contaminated, where things are located in general.
Right. And this is our zones, right? We're going to say, oh, this zone is like a red zone, right? And then we can either mitigate it using our Alara, right? We can either shield it, like put some lead blankets over if it's that hot, or limit timing in there. But we're going to manage access to protect people.
Now, if we don't have an initial idea of what this scene looks like from the beginning, how do we know whether or not it's spreading? Right? Like, let's say a windstorm comes along and knocks up a bunch of dust or dirt or debris, or something shifts, something moves. Like, if we don't have that initial survey to compare it to, and then we don't do other surveys moving forward, it's almost like what you say with meters, right? Like, okay, I took a meter reading. Well, that one meter reading doesn't really tell me anything. Right?
It's continuous meter.
It's continuous reading. So is the event getting worse? Is it getting better? Is it spreading out? Do I need to change my zones? Maybe what I'm doing is not effective and I need to figure out a better way of doing it.
Right. Or I hate to say it. This is the second time I said I hate to say this, but like the decon team is like the hydrant guy.
Yeah.
They're just, you're adorable. Just go brush everybody off over there. Just that's Kevin. Put him over there. He's kind of a knucklehead, But we can, with decon, the objective is to take them from contaminated to decontaminated, and we can verify that Kevin does the right thing. We can check the process and ensure that the individuals that are coming out on the green side of the safety, the cold zone, are indeed safe to release.
Yeah. How are you supposed to try to control personnel and site access if you don't understand where the materials are and where the high points are? So exposure control during a radiation survey helps control personnel exposure by identifying these areas. And it makes sense when you say, you're like, okay, yeah. It sounds like we're repeating the same thing over and over again, but we're really not, because these are different layers and different skill sets within the radiation incident. Right.
Or even like we can use this to determine, let's say, a transportation package, right? A package integrity, at a transport incident, or even a lab type thing. We can evaluate if a package is A, containing radioactive, something radioactive, and B, if the packaging that it's in has been compromised. You'll be able to see that.
And your site survey can grow to be as big as you need it to be, right? We've been trained to site survey entire islands of people. right? Like entire islands. And that survey is going to help the decision-making process for protective actions, like who's going to evacuate, who's going to shelter in place, or what are areas that might need more decon, right? Maybe we're going to shelter in place here so we can decon this corridor and then end up evacuating.
Or even like saying, hey, listen, we're going to bring them down to 2 millirem, and I'm making up a number here. But if I have, 1 million people, we might say, we're going to let them go at 10 millirem.
Right. Yeah. The extent that whole ALERA process where we're considering a hotline, things along those lines.
Right. So that brings us into the long-term management, right? Environmental management. So these surveys are going to conduct to track changes and contamination over time.
Long after the fire department's done.
Long after. Like this we're talking about industrial hygienist kind of stuff.
Right. This sets up the groundwork for the future. So you're not just doing it for you, we're doing it for the future of this event, which we always think about the future of events, even when we're fighting fires, right? How is this going to impact something? Evidence preservation, right? How is this going to impact evidence preservation? We do everything we can to prevent evidence damage without failing at our mission in the process. So
No, I'm just saying, like, I was just saying, like, eventually we're going to go home. But, at the same time, like, there are all going to be people that come in to clean this thing up. And they're usually not first responders. They're compliance people. They're safety managers. There's, environmental companies. And so they are going to have to make sure that they're up to regulations and standards and, long-term evaluations and studies and generational type stuff all plays into this.